Hello friends, welcome back to Jessie Kate Creates. I'm Jessica, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some cards that I made using one of my favorite methods for using 6x6 paper. So let me show you the three cards. And the coolest thing about these three cards is all three of these were made using one piece of 6x6 patterned paper. Isn't that so awesome? So really quick, let me cut to have some footage of me showing you how I cut the papers, and then we'll get back into everything else I use for these cards.
All right, so for the first piece of paper that I'm using, this is from the Recollections Save Freeze 6x6 paper pad. I did pick this up this year at Michael's, so if you really like this pattern paper, you might still be able to get it at Michael's. But of course, as always, you can use whatever you have in your stash. You just need a 6x6 piece of paper. If all you have is 12x12 paper, that works too. You can always cut it down to be 6x6. These papers are from the Happy Holidays collection by Craftsmith. It's a few years old, but that paper pad had 12x12 pieces of paper, so I just cut them down to be 6x6 so that they would work for these cards. Now this piece of paper with the scarves and the mittens, it has an extra white strip of paper at the top that the store used so that they could hang it on the display, and I don't need that. So the first cut I'm going to make is going to be at 6 inches just to cut off that extra white strip of paper on my card. Something else I'll point out here, if you are using a paper that has a clear orientation, you want your paper on its side so that the top of the paper is facing the right towards your cutting blade. And the first cut we're going to make is at 5 1/4. And then we're going to turn our paper and cut it at 4 inches. Now, I decided that because I am going to be cutting a circle out of one of these pieces, I thought the mittens on the other side of the paper would look better. So that's why I turn it upside down here. But that's just me being a little bit extra. As long as you get a piece of paper that is 5 1/4 by 4 and another piece that is 5 1/4 by 2 inches, like I have here, you are good to go.
Okay, so once I had cut the paper for these cards, I needed to go ahead and die cut a circle out from the largest panel of pattern paper. You can use any circle die in your stash for this. I have some stitched circle dies from Cat Scrappiness. I decided to use stitched circles because I wanted to add a little bit of extra detail since I knew this card was going to be on more of the clean and simple side, but any circle dies in your stash would work. Now for all three of these cards, for the background, I used some white embossed cardstock, and the embossing folder I used was from Darice. It's this snowflake embossing folder. Although anything that matches your pattern paper would work, there are a lot of really pretty white snowflakes in the background of this pattern paper. So I thought this embossing folder tied in very, very nicely and looked really good with these. So once I had embossed the backgrounds, next I moved on to making the sentiments for all of the cards. So for this card, I kept it really simple, and I just heat embossed the sentiment in silver. So I used this stamp set from Recollections. It's one of their older ones. I pull this stamp set out every year just because I think it has really good Christmas sentiments. But again, any sentiment in your stash would work. And I just used this Have a Holly Jolly Christmas. And then I looked through my stash for a die I thought that would cut this out really well. And I ended up landing on these label dies from Stampin' Up. But again, you could use anything. I think a circle die would work here, a square die. Really, anything that is the size to fit your sentiment would work. So once I had that sentiment cut out, then I decided to start assembling the card. So I did add a little extra strip of silver metallic cardstock to the edge of my pattern paper. And then I popped all of that up on some foam tape so there is a little bit of dimension. And I added the sentiment right on top. I used glue on one side to adhere it flush to the cardstock, and on the other side I did use a little bit of foam tape just so that the sentiment would be the same height as the pattern paper. So it's a relatively clean and simple card, but it does have some texture and some dimension and some sparkle with that shiny paper and the embossed sentiment. Now for the next two cards, they're pretty similar. They're kind of just like the reverse of each other, but I think they both look phenomenal. So for this card, or for both of these cards really, I heat embossed and die cut a sentiment from this stamp set. This is another one from Recollections. I think they had this one last year or maybe the year before, but really any Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever, any sentiment that matches your pattern paper would work. I chose to use the Merry and Christmas, and this stamp set did have a coordinating die that cut out both of those words, and that's really why I chose them, so I could die cut them out. So I heat embossed them in silver metallic and cut them out. I did stack these die cuts, so I don't know if you can see there. They do have a little bit of dimension. I stacked, I think, 3 pieces of cardstock for each one, so they'd be nice and dimensional on the card. So I adhered the embossed paper to the card base, and then I popped up the circle of pattern paper with some foam tape again, so there'd be a little bit of dimension. And then I added my stacked heat embossed and die cut sentiments. So again, this card is relatively clean and simple, but it still has the dimension and the texture and the shine on this card, and I think it looks really classy. Now for the last piece, I think you totally could have adhered this flat and made a regular card and it would look really awesome, but I thought this was the perfect opportunity to make a shaker card. So I just took this panel, I added a piece of clear acetate and some foam tape on top, and I just used some silver glitters on the inside to make the shaker card, and I used the same stacked die cut sentiment for this card as well. And this has a nice little bit of shake to it. Now, I'm not going to show you the inside of these cards just because I have already written the messages to the recipients in them, and I want to keep those private. But you guys know me, I love to just take a piece of pattern paper or coordinating embossed paper and adhere that somewhere on the inside of my cards to make them all kind of tie in and go together. And like I said, this really is one of my absolute favorite ways to use a 6x6 piece of pattern paper. And just by changing up the pattern paper and the sentiment, you can get a totally different look with these cards. Now, I needed some Christmas cards, so I made 3 sets of these cards. I did another set using some old paper from Recollections that had, this was a paper pad, it was like Christmas, like a pet Christmas themed collection. And I love the way this looks. I think these little, look at these little cats. Aren't they just so adorable? I love these. Now for these, I thought gold matched the pattern paper a little bit more, so I opted to use gold instead. But again, I think these are absolutely adorable. I also think these would make really fun birthday cards, you know, if you just use a happy birthday sentiment and some birthday themed pattern papers. I think these would be adorable for birthday cards, and I'm going to need a lot of those coming up. So maybe I will make some of these cards using birthday themed paper and sentiments. If I did, would you guys want to see a tutorial on that? If you would, let me know in the comments below. So this paper is another one from that pet themed collection. And I just used gold for these ones as well. And I think they are so cute. I think these little dogs and cats, I mean, look at these guys. Have you seen anything so cute? I really do think this is my favorite one of the papers, but I think they're all beautiful and gorgeous, and anyone would be happy to receive these cards. I hope you guys enjoyed this little project share and me showing you how I made these cards. In the comments below, let me know which set of cards was your favorite. Did you like the scarves and mittens, the cats, or the dogs? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!